Welcome, Professor Isabel Estrada, to the Collab With, and as well this conversation will be a podcast. So you, Professor, you are working and researching at the University of Groningen in the Netherlands, and you work with conflict in consortiums, how to make collaboration happen with multi-partner setup, and as well innovation management, change management. So welcome to the Collab With community and later to the podcast Business of Collaboration.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me and for having me. I am very excited. I told you before to share with you some thoughts and hopefully to also exchange some perspective with the participants. So thanks.
Yeah, welcome. I think you are a professor and researcher at Groningen.
Yes.
How is your study and how did you become a professor?
That's actually an interesting question because, to be fully honest, I think I always knew I wanted to be an academic. Or first, everything started with education, right? So at the school, I wanted to be a school teacher. Then high school, I wanted to be a high school teacher. And then finally at university, say, no, this is it. I do want to be a teacher here in the university. And then, of course, I became curious about, okay, what do you need to do, right? And then I started having these conversations with my professors of the courses I was taking. And they told me, well, you need to do this thing, this PhD thing, if you want to become a professor. I said, oh, okay. Oh, that sounds actually very nice. So I started to get involved as a research assistant, first in the Department of Econometrics and Statistics. That's surprising, actually. And then, yeah, step by step, then, I moved into my doctoral studies. And of course, that's the requisite. But the next step maybe is to explain how did I end up in Groningen, because here is where I became an associate professor. So during my PhD, I came for a research stay here to work with a very important professor in my field of research, collaborative innovation and alliances. And this was 2011 already. It was my last year of the PhD. And yeah, at that moment, when I was about to come back, then a position opened. And yeah, I applied, and the year after I got the job, and yeah, I moved here. So I guess this is my story.
And this is very interesting because inside the Collab With community, we have a lot of PhDs and professors and researchers, and it's super interesting to have these stories, like it's something inside of you. You are like, you have this, I don't know how, this call to become a researcher and professor.
Definitely with education, it was my first call. And then when I started to understand what was what is research, and then I thought, yeah, this is really what I want to do, because I've been always a very curious monkey, right? Also growing up. So in my case, I need to say, yes, it was a call. I always knew I wanted to be where I am. So I feel very grateful for that, actually, that I can do what I wanted to do.
Yeah, now the question is about your research you are doing, actually. Why collaborative innovation? You have many papers about competition, collaboration with competitions, about innovation performance, and as well the role of interpartner, industry university alliances. And now you are more into the conflict into these alliances and these consortiums. So what kind of research projects are you doing currently, and why this field of research?
So indeed, in my research, I study collaborative innovation strategies in general, and in particular, I am very curious about what sometimes I call collaboration with a twist. So strategies that are particularly challenging, like you mentioned, collaboration between competitors, collaboration between industry and university or academic partners in general, and collaboration where multiple partners and very diverse partners are involved, such as large research consortia. And I also need to say thanks for bringing this up, this particular project on conflict in consortia, because then I have the opportunity to mention that this project was sponsored by EURAM, the European Academy of Management, and we are very grateful for the support. I developed this project with colleagues from Montpellier, from the University of Montpellier. And yeah, we studied conflict in consortia. Basically, we realized that, okay, existing research highlights that these consortia are very complex and very challenging. The collaboration is very difficult because there are a lot of different partners involved, government, industry, university, you name it. These partners, they have very different interests and goals, and very often they are conflicting with each other, and they use different languages, they have different routines, processes, so sometimes it's really challenging, but at the same time there's so much potential to create innovation. So research says that, and conflicts always play a role, and they are there and they are part of the deal. But research didn't tell us how to tackle these conflicts. So that was the motivation for this project, actually.
Yeah, and this is one of the, for me, when I think you bought my book, and then after, like, I don't know how we got in touch, but then you asked me to help your with some interviews about conflict.
Yes, you were one of the experts. We are very grateful also for your contribution. Yes, thank you.
And for me, it was like, yeah, of course, this topic is huge topic. And like you were mentioning, Isabel, from your university, like it was the first time someone was doing research on this topic. And even if everyone is suffering this topic, you know, no one was talking about what is happening here. You know, it was always about maybe legal conflicts, when at the end it's not the well, in my perspective, it's not the point when you bring so many people together. But it was for me like an eye-opening. And immediately I contact Celia, no, my partner in crime in psychology, to say, what is happening here, Celia, from, you know, emotional intelligence perspective and psychology, how, you know, at personal individual level, what is, so it's super interesting because, and I am super grateful for you to open up this research line, because I think it's one of the hot topics no one is discussing openly, but everyone is suffering inside, you know.
Yes, indeed. Of course, I cannot go as far as to claim that we are the very first ones, because of course in research that almost never happens, but it is true that there is not a established evidence, specific evidence about this phenomenon. There is still a lot that needs to be studied in more detail. And I also remember you have also a workshop, I think with Celia, indeed. And I think indeed the more micro perspective on conflicts in alliances, in collaboration in general, it is really needed. It's something that we need to explore more and deeper, because that's something actually we also saw in our project, that wow, the individuals play such a role in conflict and conflict management, right?
Yeah. So I think and this is like, thank you very much for doing this research. I think has to be super promoted. That's why I am doing this interview with you, because has to be more talks about this, because really we have to find not only the research and maybe in practitioner part, but we have to find solutions for this, because it's a way to leverage as well the results of the research projects, you know, and leverage as well all the alliances, because if not, it's getting stopped somewhere because the conflict.
Now, thank you so much, Jara. Actually, it's always reassuring to hear from practitioners and field experts that the research we as academics are doing is actually relevant. So that's something that I appreciate, and that would motivate me to keep on digging in this fascinating topic.
But as well, you are a super professor doing a lot of super creative collaboration with industry. So my question to you is, which kind of collaboration with industry are you doing as a professor and researcher?
Thank you, Kara. I'm a super professor. I like that. Yes, I am associate professor. I don't know if I am super professor, but yeah, that would be my goal one day to become one. Thanks. No, of course, I think I and my colleagues as well, it's something that this is emphasized in the Faculty of Economics and Business of the University of Groningen and the university at large, that we should make an impact. We should have what we do should be relevant for society, otherwise has no meaning. And that's something that I also believe in firmly and personally. And my own research, many of my research projects actually require a very close connection with practitioners, because I do qualitative research and I collect my data through interviews, through conversations like this. I always enjoy this so much. And so in that sense, I always seek to be connected with the field. I learn a lot. I love to exchange perspectives. And at the same time, I always hope that what I do can also be of useful for practitioners. So I take this for education and for research. So in education, we always invite guest speakers, guest lecturers, so practitioners, alliance managers, or I'm thinking, for example, of consultants that specialize in alliance management. Those I invite to my courses on collaborative innovation, so they can give a guest lecture and also learn from the students, right? And exchange perspective from the students. I think it's also useful for both parties. That's in education. And in research, as I said, I try to connect with the practitioners. This project about consortia was based on interviews with field experts, project participants, and I have other research projects in connection with colleagues. For example, my colleague Martin, he's developing his PhD in close connection with practitioners regarding identity in alliances and other sort of more micro processes. So that would be one of the examples. So in education and research, I always seek to be connected.
But you are as well teaching change management in the innovation, we can say, field. So what are the main important factors of change management related to innovation?
So this is actually a good question, and you and I, we've been debating and discussing about this, right? To see also, because I invited you also to participate in our change management program. So I am involved in this program as a lecturer and as a coordinator. And I think as a lecturer, I am involved in a course that I think is particularly relevant to your question and to this conversation. This course is managing technological change. And here, basically, we try to understand the change management processes and how organizations can lead change that is induced by technology and technological factors. Think of digital transformation, not only, but this could be an example. And one of the things we see is that the strategy, broadly understood, is key to these change processes and to managing change. Strategy, leadership, and capabilities in particular. How leaders actually think about change, how leaders actually act upon change. That's crucial for an organization to navigate successfully or not that successfully a change process induced by technology.
Yeah, I think this one maybe off the microphone later. I can tell you one of the projects we were doing. we signify and how we digitalize the connectivity of all the factories globally. So it could be super interesting for your research, or to have them as a guest lecture, you know, from leadership perspective, how they drive the change inside the organization.
Absolutely.
So the other question, because now currently you are doing research on the area of conflict management in consortiums, what is going on in the research, and what are the, you know, the surprise findings? So the new things like, I didn't expect this.
Yeah, so actually many of the findings were, I would not say surprising because some of them make sense, but because the research is not very developed yet, there were quite some findings that we are still at the stage of preliminary findings. We did a first round of analysis, but of course, I cannot give very set, nothing is set in stone. But having said that, some interesting observations. In research about collaborative innovation, we used to, or we tend to play quite a lot of emphasis on contracts. But what we observe is that in the context of consortia, contracts may not be that relevant for conflict management, because contracts tend to be actually quite simplistic in a way. I think that the logic is, because these consortia are so large, let's just create a very basic contractual agreement that is sort of broad, so it serves the purpose of the consortia, and then we try to regulate with other set of rules that are written maybe in the proposal. Well, you know quite a lot about this, Hara. If you think about...
For the audience, yeah, for the...
Yes. Anyway, so we tend to think that contracts are very important, but in consortia may not be that important, because maybe because of the complexity of the conflicts that they emerge in this consortia, those cannot be regulated in a contract. Not everything can be anticipated, much less in consortia. So what we commonly hear from the interview partners is that the contract actually, I don't even know what is in the contract regarding conflict. If I have a conflict, I will not check the contract. So those were some sort of answers that we got. So that's one thing. And the other thing that I'm trying to dig deeper now, I'm getting very excited about this, is about the life cycle stage of the consortia. So we sort of got the indication from the interviews that the participants, so the life cycle stage of the consortium plays an important role regarding whether the participants would tackle a conflict or not, if it's like, oh, let's see if it resolves by itself, and whether the conflict is actually detrimental or not. And I think that's quite interesting. And paradoxically, maybe some people would think, oh, if the conflict emerged at the beginning of the consortium, then I would let it go. I would try to let it go. I don't do anything. Okay, we are just starting. Let's be lenient. But for me, that's surprising, because you look at existing research, including some of my own projects, warns that conflicts, especially at the beginning, need to be actively managed, because otherwise the consequences can be very detrimental. So I think this is something I would like to dig deeper into it.
Yeah, I think this week we had a conflict in one consortium. So before submitting the proposal, so 2 days before submitting the proposal, one of the partners became crazy. I don't know why. It was the partner getting more funding. They wanted to have more funding. And I think the problem was like they lost the overview of the project, why we were there, you know, like they were very into them only. So I have to intervene and remind about why we were there, and as well, like, what was the vision of the project? And like everyone is important because it was so tough. Like a lot of partners started saying, I am quitting, I am leaving the consortium.
Oh, wow.
So it was very tough. And then I said, no, everyone here is very important. It's like a piece of the puzzle. If we are here not all together, we are not making it. And the point, like, we have many support from a lot of letter of intent and very important people. So personally, I feel in the responsibility, you know, to create this proposal and to win the proposal, you know, and to do it correctly. And that's why we are all here together, no, to make it happen together. So they didn't get the point, but at least the other partners, they were relieved. And then at the end, I said, no. So the budget, we will do it ourselves with the coordinator. We will change all the budget only to have balanced everything to win the proposal. And then let's figure it out, because it's better to have the money and the problems, like no money and no problem. The thing is, like, the rest of the partners, they were very happy with this intervention. No, and at the end we submit the proposal on time. But the partner who was, you know, like complaining about the budget because they wanted more money, they didn't reply or something. So still, even, you know, like the complexity of solving conflicts, only for an example, you know, like, because you mentioned this part, like solving conflicts from the beginning. Yeah. I have the sense, like, I have to follow up with this specific partner to understand them better, but they have to understand as well the other position better. You know, they cannot only be super individualistic. So what do you think, Isabel?
I'm gonna be totally honest. As you were speaking, I was thinking I would have loved to have that case included in my study. It sounds interesting. Even some partners from a research perspective, right? As a qualitative researcher, I'm always more interested in the difficult cases than the easy ones. I think we can learn a lot. And of course, I am not, I'm an academic expert. I am not an expert in conflict management, but what you did, I think it makes a lot of sense to me. And sometimes maybe in consortia, we need to let one partner go. That means that the consortia can function better. I'm not saying that you should kick out that partner, not at all, but of course a compromise needs to be found, and you mentioned that the other partners seem to be quite happy with that, so that makes the majority of them. So it sounds quite it makes sense to me what you did. I hope everything would worked out already for you, and you submitted on time, so that's already an achievement.
Yeah, so I will try to follow up with the other conflicting partner and let you know how is the story.
Good luck. Yes, I would love to hear how the story continues. Thanks.
Yeah, so but now, like, you are here, how other researchers or organizations can contact you to work with you in this area of conflict management, you know, to give you more studies and qualitative information, like you can work for your research. So how they can contact you?
Yes, of course, they can always drop me an email or connect on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to connect. I'm a very collaborative person myself. It's not only my topic for my research, I am myself. I enjoy a chat and exchanging perspectives a lot. So
yeah, because I think this topic, when we kick off the topic, like everyone has a story, you know, like
yeah, absolutely.
Everyone has a story.
We live in the era of collaborations everywhere. They are everywhere. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, but you are as well professor in innovation. So what is innovation for you?
That's actually, it looks like a very simple question, but that's actually, it is not that simple, and there is a lot of semantic discussions about it. So I'm going to give you an answer that this is how I explain to the students, and me and other colleagues as well in the strategy innovation management program in the business administration master in our university. We distinguish innovation and invention. So innovation, I would consider that is something novel that has been successfully launched onto the market. If we are talking about more technological innovation, we can talk about a new product. It's not only the novel idea or concept, but has made it to the market in some way. And there are other types of innovation. I also have done some research about it. Organizational innovations. So how organizations manage their resources, for example, knowledge management practices. So you could also think of innovation as a new practice to manage, for example, human capital in your organization. And I would consider that's an innovation when it's actually established.
And then the other is like, what is collaboration for innovation?
Yeah, I think this one is easier. I would say any innovation project, innovation-related project that is developed jointly by different parties. And of course, I am particularly interested in inter-organizational collaborations. So different organizations that get together, but collaborative innovation also happens within the boundaries of the firm or the organization. So for example, different departments. I would say that would be my definition. I'll be curious about how other people also define collaborative innovation and understand it.
Yeah, and I think, well, more technical question is as well, what is the difference between open innovation and collaborative innovation? Yeah, like you are here, I am taking the chance to.
Yes, I'm not, open innovation is not exactly my field, and I know they have important contributions and contributors, but what I understood is that open innovation is characterized by this both inflows and outflows of knowledge, and to a large extent that happens also in collaborative innovation. So I share my knowledge and I receive your knowledge. That happens quite a lot in collaborative innovation, but I could think of collaborative innovation agreements that do not necessarily meet these conditions. So for example, I don't know, unilateral transfers of technology or patents. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's a correct answer. As I say, don't pin me on this because I am not an open innovation scholar as such.
Very good. So now we can open the questions to our Collabwave members. So we have Evarist, Celia, Susana, Julian today here. So you have questions for Isabel about conflict management or change management. Yeah, Celia.
Someone is asking, Susana was asking?
Yeah, Susana?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay.
No? Okay. I was thinking. And now I come back because I need to understand a little bit. But my question was in the sense of change, no? The change you talk about technology or the develop of the digital era, for example, and what is about the change management? This is about the person, that how persons see this change or are prepared or resilient or resistant or are open for a change, or is more about, because the change was in collaboration, but in the sense of conflict. I didn't know exactly in which topic was the change. And of course, as psychotherapist, for me, is the change in the personal way.
And then, I fully understand, yeah.
And this is my question. This is if this is a topic in the sense of change, the person has to be adapt to the situation and then create conflicts, or is more it's not about conflict, it's only change, how to be open for the change, or to be manage your position or your thoughts about this.
Thanks a lot for your question. Actually, I didn't mean to connect the topics when I was answering, so I treat them separately. But I actually think it would make a lot of sense to connect conflict management and change management. And I do believe that some of my colleagues in the change management program do that in their courses. They cover these sort of conflicts at the personal level, and also intra person. I don't know if that's the correct terminology, but you mentioned resistance, for example. I do know that some of my colleagues cover these topics, how the agents of change actually deal or lead change, and the conflicts, tensions that emerge in change processes. I do not cover directly those in my course in managing technological change, but we do cover the role of leaders and top managers and how they think about change and how they envision change, and if they envision change, because sometimes we see that they have missed the change, they didn't see it coming. So we don't talk about the other common individuals in my course, but I know other colleagues too. So I think, yeah, that's very important, the role of agents, individuals. How do you see it, Celia, because that's your core expertise, right?
Yeah.
So how do you see that?
I was only curious about the question, no, because I was thinking, for me, is the conflict is the sense you feel somehow overwhelmed with the situation. The conflict is when you feel threat somehow, not at the beginning, not the sense where we are talking about the beginning. You need to be clear what happened, and then maybe you then can realize this is not a problem. But for me, it was a question, no, I want to have a change, or the tendency for us to have a change, or that we can do in the innovation new things, or we are developing new things. But also, is the conflict is what happens if this is not, I'm projecting that this maybe is a problem, and then what you say, I underestimate what means change, no, for some people, because it's more the fantasy but not the reality. And I was thinking, in the innovation, you need to be more clear with yourself, in the sense this is we need to discover something, or we need to apply something, and I need to be more on the earth, more in the rational part. And then for me then it's coming the conflict, because we are supposing things.
Yeah, very interesting.
For me, it was interesting to know, this what you are telling. Is a different, the versus, one versus the other one, but is a role of the leaders and the management. And then for me, it's clear.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You.
Yeah. Now with this conversation, is coming to me an interesting question, because when there is all these technological trends. No, it was many years ago, a case we can relate because it's finished, well, more or less. It was about the wearables technology. It was like all these reports of McKinsey saying like the wearables technology will be a huge industry, I don't know how many billions of euros industry. And then it was not the case. And for me, when I was there at that time in developing in a company this kind of how to integrate the wearables into the products, and for me it was like super clear, like this is going nowhere, because how the user has to change in a way it was opposite to the way of living. So it was decremental for them. It was in and as well the part of not only losing the whole privacy thing, like well, this could be solved with security, but as well it is a strong change, and the change was not positive either for the planet, in electronics, and and washing and recycling, and it was very complex, the part of wearables integrated into garments or footwear. So the change, it was in the long run very negative overall holistically. And that's very interesting how from individual change you can predict if the trend will be successful, you know, in the long run. So yeah, I was having only this point now, this connection.
And may I ask you a
Yeah,
follow-up
please.
interview? Yeah, because so I am curious. So the leaders in that case envision a change. How did the employees reacted? So in your case, you personally didn't believe in that, no? If I understood correctly.
Because
But
the impact in the user. When you draw the user journeys and you see, you know, how the user react to this, you have a lot of information, qualitative information you can play with already. You don't need super statistics or, you know, macro trends or something to predict this success. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, something that comes to mind related to this is that
no, the leaders, they were super happy to say, yeah, super. They were men, by the way, but I don't know. I don't want to polarize the situation. But they were like, yeah, we have this Robocop vision of the people, you know, going to the streets, and we will save the planet every day with our super wearables every day, you know. But this is not. Yeah, the leaders of the company, they were like this, like Robocop visionaries.
And you felt they were disconnected from reality, no?
Yeah.
But then did they have a contingency plan? So this is what something in managing technological change in this course we discuss with the students based on research, that very often it is okay to make a mistake. You have to be prepared. That companies need to be prepared for also being wrong. And very often they are not. That's the problem, not being wrong per se, but not being prepared. So maybe they get overconfident sometimes, companies, leaders in particular. I don't know, were they prepared for a contingency, for a B plan or plan B?
No, not at all.
Yeah, that's often one of the reasons for which companies, I would say, do not survive radical technological change, because they are not prepared for several options.
Super interesting. That's super interesting, by the way. Yeah, Susanna, maybe you have questions here?
Well, you have read my face, or yeah, well, nice to meet you, first of all.
Nice to meet you, Susanna. Thanks.
Nice to meet you, and thank you very much for all of this. I'm sorry because I joined late, but related to this specific topic, one of the challenges I think we are facing, well, in some companies, okay, is the engagement for other, not just for the digital leadership, that the digital leadership team or people that believes on strongly on the technological era piece of all of this transformation, would agree with or would go ahead and would be very engaged and very committed, you know, with all the changes. But overall, I think the main challenge is over the rest of the management, right? So the directors are very focused on the daily activities, on saving costs and other objectives that at the end they are related to each other, right? Because transformation at the end, or the digital transformation, it's would be focus or address to all the objectives for the business. But it's very challenging, this. So I don't know if based on your research also you have figured out some advices or some ways to overcome this kind of reaction, okay, to the change, as Celia already raised up from change management perspective. But maybe the alignment between the different levels of the in the organization, well, there is a lack of that, right?
Thanks, Susanna, for your question. Actually, I was thinking, I do not do research on transformational leadership or change management, as you may have noted, more on collaborative innovation, but I do think that there are some things from collaborative innovation that could also be useful in the context that you are describing, more organizational change and so on. With, at the end of the day, it's a collaboration among different stakeholders, and the problem you described, that's how to get them on board. What we see in collaborative innovation research is that the partners need to see that there is something in them, in it for them. So they all have to think about the agreement and the collaboration as meaningful and relevant. And when that doesn't happen or stop being relevant, then they are less motivated to keep on their commitments, and then they stop contributing. And I think that happens if the employees, for example, do not see what is in it for me of in a digital transformation or other organizational changes, then I don't get actively involved and contributing. And we see that all the time in alliance research. I don't know, do you think this could be also applied for the context you were describing and the problem you were describing?
Yeah, to some extent, yeah, for sure. Maybe it's a matter to how to overcome from the conflict perspective, because at the end it's a conflict that it's figuring out between that alignment or the expectations for each of the stakeholders here. But yeah,
I think for conflict, again, in more inter-organizational collaborations, as I study, an observation from my own research is that it's okay to have conflicts and to have conflicting views, and even sometimes even conflicting goals. What is not, or what is really detrimental is not to discuss about it. And sometimes the conflicts remain latent until it grows too much and then it explodes and there is no way back. So it is best from the very outset to openly bring on the table, okay, what are your expectations? And this is again in collaborative, inter-organization collaborative agreements. But to some extent, I think in every project that requires collaboration among a large set of stakeholders, this should be key.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, super cool. So Evariste, do you have, because you wanted to create more partnerships and collaborations to help your community. So how do you see this case, Evariste? Do you have questions?
Yes. Yeah, I have questions. Yeah, thanks, Prof. Isabella, for your research that you are doing. Yeah. Whenever I meet researchers, I feel like to be home, because I feel like I have also that call. So thanks again for what you.
Thank you, much appreciated.
Yeah. So on my side, I want to go to the basic things. So at the really basic point, it's not that between within a consortium or between two organizations or many organizations or for the big budget. No, it's at the organization level. So just one organization. And this issue, I've raised it previously with Yara. So Yara gave an answer as an expert. So I would like to hear also if there is a scientific perspective of this issue. So while creating an organization, the step of creating the board members. So I would like, because trying to avoid the internal conflict between even the team members. So how effectively someone can select members so that they are sure what they are doing will flow following the same objective that they set themselves. Yeah, that is the first question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. This is very challenging, your question, I need to say. I would be curious afterwards to hear Hara's opinion as well. But again, I am not an expert in team diversity or board dynamics, but I think the challenge here is that probably you want to create a board that is diverse and rich. So there are a lot of perspectives, so they can make very good decisions and be more creative maybe and see problems and issues with different angles. Then you need a team that is diverse enough. But with diversity also you would face conflicts and misunderstandings and, you know, maybe some clashes. I know, and I could maybe recommend after the meeting a couple of scientific papers, again, not written by me, but I do think that there is some research on boards and team diversity that says that you need a certain level of diversity to make efficient and creative, let's say, decision making. But too large diversity can create, of course, this conflict. So I think it would be a matter of finding the sweet spot in that diversity level. And I'm not sure if that this answer is to your satisfaction, but yeah, I could recommend maybe some articles about it, but I think you would still need to expect a certain level of conflict if you want to benefit from the benefits of diversity. How do you see this? Are you willing to deal with some conflict, some level of conflict?
Yeah. Okay. There is level of tolerance. So yeah, as what you have been saying. So there is some level of conflict where we can tolerate,
Okay.
and the other one which can really go totally awkward, which
Right.
can sound awkward from what is being done. Yeah. So maybe from this, can I ask the second question? This is for your own perspective. I would like to know, uh, from your own perspective, who can be called co-founder of an organization?
A co-founder.
Yeah.
Well, from my own perspective,
Yeah.
co always mean in cooperation with, right? So
Yeah.
I would say a co-founder. I'm not sure about the legal requirements, but a co-founder, I would say it's someone, or for example, I would see two people founding a firm, then both would be the co-founders. Legally, maybe there is a percentage of, I don't know. Legally, I honestly, I don't have a clue. I'm sorry.
Okay. So in terms of idea contribution, in terms of their contribution while constructing the organization, so who can be a co-founder?
I guess the contribution must be, but this is purely my personal,
Yeah.
my personal thought as we speak. I guess I would consider myself a co-founder if I am there from the very earliest stage in the firm project, and I contribute of course, financial resources, but also other sort of resources that are necessary to start a business project, meaning social capital, so networking, contacts, ideas, right? That's what academics have mainly. We don't have any money, but we have ideas. So, but for a business, I think you also need to contribute money. I don't know, anyone knows anything about the legal requirements to be named a co-founder?
Okay, thanks. Thanks, because I wanted just to hear your opinion. Of course, I'm at the creation level of an organization which is trying to help the communities which are from conflict areas, so that they can get involved into their own development and to sustain it. Yeah, so for the long term period. So at the beginning, I had issues with the formation of my group, of my team, because when we had the first discussion, we went through, okay, people are like excited. So, and then when we went now to the serious issues, it seemed like objectives were not clear enough. So yeah, and for me, as I've been involved for some times, not very, very long times, into scientific things, so I know that things cannot happen magically. So I have to wait, think again, and then restructure things, and then try to relaunch. So I'm trying now to get different ideas from different experts, so that when I relaunch it, it maybe has some strong roots. Yeah, thanks. That's why I've asked all those questions.
I understand, and I wish you all the best with that challenge. From research on collaborative innovation, so what you were telling, that people are very excited, but then when it's time to actually put things on paper, then yeah, conflicts start to emerge. That resonates with what I know about collaborative innovation, how everything starts. So yeah, people are very enthusiastic, and we have this in some research, we call it honeymoon period, right? Oh, everything's perfect. But then, yeah, everything is not perfect. And you are even seeing that before starting the actual project. I think it makes sense to me what you propose personally, that you say, okay, this doesn't happen overnight. We need to really discuss about it, give it some time. And what we see in alliances is that the word compromise is key, right? An alliance of any type, I would say, should be beneficial to every party. They may have different goals, but they still need to be able to get what they need from the collaboration. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to get together for the project. So that's why what you propose personally would make sense to me, if you would make sure that everyone can achieve at least partially their goals.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks. Sorry, I cannot be of further help on that, because I'm a bit far from my own topic.
Yeah, and sorry for asking things which are a little bit far from.
No,
from
not
me.
at all. It's nice to be challenged, to be honest.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Julian, do you have questions? Because you are doing, well, Julian is making a community of women researchers.
Yeah, actually, I don't have much questions. Thank you so much for, it was really good kind of discussions. And I feel like innovation always bring the conflicts between the actors. So always in the innovation, I think some conservative parts, they always keep their right. And then there is a lot of resistance when the innovation happens. So how we can deal these kind of things to accelerate innovation for the future. Do you have any idea or strategy from the research?
Yes, thank you so much. This is actually a relevant issue in innovation, in collaborative innovation. So indeed, it's quite challenging because you have to share, but at the same time, you need to be careful and protect your core knowledge, right? So you need to share with the partner, but at the same time protect. And that's, for example, especially in cases where competitors collaborate. Which happens very often in innovation projects. So I do study this in my research, and we call it this coopetitive tension, right? That you have to share but protect, you have to cooperate but compete. And this is, of course, like a paradox. And one of the things that's based on research, not only my own research, but also other researchers, a recommendation could be, first of all, to embrace this paradox and understand this is like that. Do not try to eliminate the reality, but embrace it and work with it and find ways in which you can balance. So share, but try to make it safe, the sharing, and protect, but do not protect too much, because then if you protect too much and you close too much, then you cannot share and you cannot really work together. So probably it's a matter of finding balance. But that would be the second step. I would say the first step is to understand the reality of this collaboration. It's a challenging collaboration. In innovation, sometimes we don't even know what is the actual goal. So we know we want to create something together, but the technology is so novel that we cannot really set specific achievements or milestones because there is a lot of uncertainty. And then we start working together and things do not go as expected, technologically speaking. So it is very difficult to predict things. So you really need to be open and share and be flexible. And the first thing, again, would be embrace it, understand is the way it is, and then try to find a balance between these more sharing and more protecting behaviors.
Thank you. Thank you for explaining.
Thank you. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, Isabel, that was super, super good. I was thinking, yes. I think maybe we have to do a masterclass only of this. So how to collaborate with competitors, and sometimes it's not industry competition, it's academics, because you have a solution for a specific problem. And every academic has his own solution, so his own recipe.
Absolutely. Yes, competition among scientists and academic partners, something is maybe not that known, because of course science is about working together and collaborating, most of it, but there is also a competitive side to it. So yes, definitely.
Yeah, and there is this part in the co-creation part that is super interesting, when you have different ideas, so you bring in theory different IPs, intellectual property, and then could be in this sense of I think I found super difficult in the scenario of co-creating knowledge, teaching material or some kind of new methodology, because it's when I found the most conflicting parts is arising, when so that could be super interesting to explore maybe together, like you come here and you teach this part, because everyone at innovation level, they are talking about co-creation, but not everyone is looking at what really means co-creation when you have to balance the conflict, like outside of this honeymoon. And I found, like, in all these kind of brainstormings, or design thinking, is only honeymoon, and then it's coming after the reality, and then it's when like the conflicts are not solved, and then everything stops there.
Yeah, that's actually the co-creation is always interesting. Everything that entails novelty of innovation in the academic knowledge as well, included. Sometimes you may need to be careful with what you share, because your ideas can also be appropriated. Having said that, I would say most of the scientists I work with, they know where the boundaries are, and I am very fortunate that I work with very nice colleagues, and I trust they will not misappropriate my ideas. So I'm willing to share my slides for teaching, my course materials, and so on. And I also receive a lot of material and input from my colleagues. But yeah, the co-creation, I could imagine you are involved in this large consortia, Hara, and you probably see a lot of this, right? People in the brainstorming, maybe misappropriating ideas of each other, or I don't know.
No, it was because some cases that people explain me, but now, like you mentioned this, I had an issue in one community of innovation leadership, sharing some ideas, and then a professor, I am not a professor, so I cannot do research, but one professor got my whole pitch and put him as it was him, the word by word. And now he's doing a Center of Emotional Intelligence for Innovation. And he's like, well, I have to call the publisher to mention his name just in case. And I have to report to him and to the community to say, okay, that's a copy paste full of my words. And like, you are aware of this. And yeah, sometimes, it's not nice, but whatever. So I think it's very important to speak up, at least.
Yeah, no, in general, I think that's unethical behaviors in academia and everywhere else.
Exactly, yeah. People are people everywhere. We are.
Yeah, people are people everywhere. And I also think you also have very honest people everywhere, also in academia. And I would personally not misappropriate, and I would always try to be very careful with the appropriation of knowledge and ideas of colleagues and build upon them, cite their work properly. That's of course something we are explicitly teaching to the new generations of researchers. We make quite some emphasis on it in my institution, but also in many others, that you should cite and give credit where credit is due. Yeah, exactly. Because academics, our main asset is our knowledge and our ideas. So
yeah, I think that's the point we discussed with Celia, I think last week, the part of reference. Make the reference, write down, even in a website, if you have a blog, and then like people, they can reference you, and they says it's a way to protect your thinking. It's not only ideas, your way of reasoning or something, and like people, to give as well people like the chance, make a reference here, and like you can reference everyone if you want. Yeah, that's my advice always, to do this, because it's easier, like to reference. So,
and it's also more fun, no?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think that's the point, like co-create in a
work with people. Yes, it's more fun.
A safe place. Totally. So now I would like to finalize this conversation with personal questions. So very quick, Isabel, very quick. Yes. So what is your favorite place for holidays?
This will not come as a surprise. Spain, the north of Spain. It is true, it's my country, but the north of Spain is beautiful. Beautiful food, beautiful people, beautiful weather, beautiful landscape. You have it all, and it's not very crowded.
That's true, because it's not sun every day. So what do your mornings look like? Do you have a routine in the morning?
So as I think every family with children, with the small children, will relate to this. My mornings tend to be chaotic and hectic. And maybe the only thing that remains constant is that I tend to get up very early because my kids do. And then I start with coffee because I really need coffee. But work-wise, I try to start with my notes, trying to write down just a couple of minutes what is for today, what do I need to do, and what is high on the agenda today, and that helps me to get into the mood, into the working mood smoothly.
Mm-hmm. What are you doing with your spare time and the weekends?
We have this joke that academics do not have hobbies because academia is their hobby, which is very unhealthy, by the way. In the weekends, I try to slow down a little and enjoy time with my family. I'm enjoying more and more talking with my eldest kid. She's 4, and I love how she sees the world. She has so much to tell, and she thinks so differently, and I get so much. I learn so much from that. That's my new hobby for the weekends. And of course, I always enjoy a nice walk. I get my earbuds and some music, and I just walk, and I'm happy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good and perfect answer for the next question. What is your favorite music?
I cannot really, this is always very difficult for me. I cannot tell you one. I'm not a person of big favorites in that sense, but I do enjoy Spanish music, pop music, Spanish music, Joaquin Sabina. Maybe for the non-Spanish speaking, this is not very useful. It's music that somehow connects really with my feelings, brings me memories. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And if you would like to recommend a book?
I mostly read academic articles in English, but if you want something in Spanish, I have some recommendations. So again, not one favorite, but I always enjoy reading Juan José Millás. Any of his books, I read 4 or 5 of them, and I always like La Mujer Loca. Well, I have several titles, but in Spanish, all of them. And currently I'm reading Patria, Fernando Aramburu. I'm halfway through the book, but I am really enjoying it. Sorry, only in Spanish.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Isabel Estrada, for this conversation, and as well all the insights. I think it always is amazing to learn from you. So thank you very much. And well, for the other Collab with members, so see you, I think, next week with the Mindset Masterclass. And as well, we have this month about the innovation workshop about how to discover what you are expert, like, and how to promote it as an expert. So
thank you so much for having me. Thank you for all the questions.